It's time to make some scratch clicky fidget holes using Tinkercad, so let's get cracking. Now I'm going to get you to a starter using a template, but we're going to get there a different way. I want you to type bit.ly/HLMTDL for the digital library. What I'm doing here is trying to organize my content to give you guys a better shot of finding what you need. I have more than 5,000 tutorials on YouTube, so I figure anything I give you has got to be a step up. So we've got what's called level 1. You can check out all these. Notice I've got a keychains one where I give the keychain projects playlist, but I've also got a quick link to many of my playlists in its own separate columns, ways to reach me, and cool items you may want to find, like my Tinkercad shape catalog. I update this all the time, and every time you type that bit.ly, you get the latest version. So real quickly, I'm going to bounce all the way to level 4, and I'm going to show you the Clicky Fidget Hole Master. Once again, I use bit.ly, so if you want to share this with somebody, you can just tell them to type bit.ly/clmaster, and bang, they will be at this free template. Of course, as you can see, it is already live, but I am making the tutorial. That's why this says coming soon. You can always check for more details down below. It is set to copy and tinker, so don't forget the golden rule of Tinkercad. Give a reaction before you copy and tinker. Now these are holes for clicky fidgets. Let me show you quickly why we're making it. Alright, so if you haven't seen them before, these are clicky fidgets. I have got a bunch of tutorials. I use the Cali brand Clicky Fidget. It's got a nice clicky sound, that's why we use it. Now I had a user snag some on Amazon and mention that the holes don't fit. So I'm making a tutorial showing you how to adjust them. So first, these don't have the same clicky sound. If it was me, I would definitely stick with these keys. And of course there is a link in the video. If you do choose these though, let me show you the difference. So if you want to look at the holes that I put in that project that we opened a minute ago, from the side view, these both attach with that little ridge, so there's not that big a difference. But if we look at the bottom, the peg on the non-Cali is like twice as big. So we're going to learn how to adjust that hole to make it fit, but I do want to show you this other option. If you have got a pair of snippers, which come with almost every 3D printer, you can actually just reach in there and cut that little bugger off. Of course, now it's shot across the room and I have no idea where it went. Now I will show you the tops have a little bit different profile as well. I'm going to show you how to adjust that in a minute. One bonus note, don't forget to look for the Lucky Clover Fidget. Of course, I'm going to have a Shamrock Fidget coming out later next week. Returning to our design, let me show you what we got. First, this is the keycap hole. This is for the Cali Fidget. It's the original. If you check back here in the notes, I've got a link so you can actually track those down. You'll also have the original base hole. You can see that this is the ridge that we mentioned a minute ago. Of course, you can read all these notes at your leisure. I'm going to hide them right now so it's easier for me to show you stuff. So this was my first attempt. I was just fiddling. If we ungroup this and we ungroup the hole, this is simply a double trapezoid. I kept adjusting the numbers till I had the shape I wanted. Then I cut out this hole that you can see right here. That works for the Cali keys. And then once those two were grouped, I'll do this again. Shift, select, Control G to group. Then I added the little cross shape that actually is where the keys are. And then I took this and I grouped it, Control G, and made it into the hole that we can cut into the parts. This is a fidget top. This was one I made just for fun. This is my modified piece that I'm giving you all. It has a little bit different shape and it's taller. You can fiddle with it and see if you like it better. It does work with the ones the user shared. Now over here, I will just double click to show you this. It is the same shape, but I just added a cylinder to make it taller. This is what you would do if you didn't want to cut off those little parts. So let me real quickly show you how to make a fidget. I'm going to do Control D, move this aside, and we're going to ungroup it. You'll notice this is simply a sketch. I simply rounded the corners, set it to 1.2 width, and I put it at the outside. That makes it so it's the walls of our fidget. It's super slick. If we go back inside, notice it does make us do a loop-de-loop as we come back out of there. This is actually the same part, but this one, I do not have it set as a stroke, so it is filled in. That's the secret of this technique is we can turn the stroke on and off so one sketch actually becomes all the parts. This right here is the hole lined up to the top, and then when we select these two and do Control G, it is cut out and ready for 3D printing. This right here is the exact same part as there. Let's quickly ungroup it, and then I'm gonna ungroup it again. Let me show you why there's two. This is my favorite trick. I took this exact same sketch where I've turned it into a hole, and I'm gonna choose Edit Sketch. All I did was take that stroke value, set it to 0.8, and set it to the center, and that way it's going to trim off 0.4 on every side. This is my favorite part about the effort it takes to trace stuff. Once you've got them, I can grab those two pieces, do Control G to group, and now it'll fit inside here with a 0.4 gap on every side. If I hit T for transparent, you can see that hole is underneath, waiting to be cut, so I'm going to grab those two parts and do Control G to group. Of course, at that point, you can simply grab your new Fidget and choose Export as an STL for 3D printing. I'm going to change the name to SQ and FID for Square Fidget. All right, so this is what it looks like once printed. There's that edge where we want to push this edge into, so do make sure you have that lined up, and make sure you push it all the way down because you want it to be fully flat and seated. And then you can grab your cap and stick it on as well. And bingo, Clicky Fidget. How cool is that? So let's wrap up quickly. Of course, I want to start by thanking Sharon for the original question. Love digging into my projects and finding ways to make them work for other materials. I do like my Cali switches better, and of course, don't forget that link is in the description. I also hope you enjoyed checking out the HLModTech digital library. Don't forget, I update that often, so every time you type in that bit.ly that I'm showing up above, you are seeing the most current version of the projects I want to highlight. I do want to quickly say thank you to everybody that supports me via YouTube memberships. Don't forget there are 3 different levels of support starting as low as $5 a month. With any level of support, you get early access to videos. Also, a massive shout out to everybody that supports me via Patreon. More than 450 members. There's a fantastic messaging area. Of course, you can learn more with the bit.ly up above or the link in the description. Finally, friends, I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget every time you like, hype, share a video, add a comment down below, or click subscribe. You're helping HLModTech get just a little bit bigger, which absolutely makes my day. Friends, have a glorious day and keep tinkering.